And now, Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.
In an attempt to break free from Britain's top-down centralized government, the United States was born. But it wasn't until 11 years later that we had the very government structure we enjoy today. Here to give us a bit of a history lesson and how this plays a role in our legal system is Allie Menegakis, attorney with the Clekis law firm, on this week's Legal Perspective. Good to have you back with us.
Great to be here. I love this topic.
You know, and I love talking about civics because I don't feel like I really got a good handle on it when I was in high school. But the three branches of government, we take it for granted, but they're incredibly important to our foundation.
Essential. The three branches of government, what are we talking about? We're talking about the judiciary branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch. So
how is each one broken down?
So the judiciary branch is like the Supreme Court or courts of the United States. The legislative is Congress or elected officials, and the executive branch is the president and the agencies associated under the president.
And what's important to realize is that each one checks the other.
Absolutely.
So not one is in its own lane, in a silo. They all have to work together, and they all have to check one another.
Yeah, I mean, I really get chills talking about this subject because it is so vital to the work that we all do as attorneys and so vital to our democracy. We have had one of the best democracies in the history of our world for almost 250 years, and that's because the founding fathers made our three branches of government a certain way. So not only did they make three branches, but they made them co-equal branches. So each branch has its own power that's dispersed amongst the three. So for example, Congress has the power to enact laws and pass laws. The executive branch has the power to enforce those laws. And then the judiciary branch has the power and the duty to review those laws and apply them.
And interpret the law.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's where we see the Supreme Court coming into play so often with these landmark cases, because they're really diving deep and going into the constitutionality of a particular decision, which oftentimes get overturned, sometimes they get stayed.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fascinating topic, and unfortunately, you know, we don't have forever to talk about the subject because it really is infinite. But as an attorney, understanding those three branches of government, how does this help you to do your job?
I mean, you know, as an attorney, we deal with lawsuits all the time. We deal with protecting constitutional freedoms that we're all afforded. But, you know, also when you talk about checks and balances, how does that work? So, you know, let's say that Congress passes a law. The executive branch can veto that law, right? The president can veto it. Or let's say the president enacts an executive order. Then the judiciary can overrule it if it's unconstitutional. So there's always some kind of check to make sure that there isn't too much power in one branch of government. And that's what our founding fathers feared.
Can you give us an example?
Yeah, I mean, you know, when we talk about the founding fathers, you know, they didn't just create this system randomly. They did it because they were victims of tyranny under King George III before our American Revolution. And the problem with that, you know, parliament, that monarchy, was that the king had absolute power. What does absolute power mean? It means that he had control over the government of the state. He could exercise royal proclamations, which were similar to executive orders, but they didn't have any checks, right? The king appointed judges that weren't checked by anyone, that were in his pocket, and so any kind of judicial reviews never really went anywhere. What else did the king do? He would punish his dissenters or protesters without any kind of fair trial. And the founding fathers didn't want that to happen again, so they created these three separate powers, had each of them disperse the power equally, and had checks and balances so that we wouldn't descend into tyranny again.
Allie, thank you so much. And as always, if you need a wonderful attorney, make sure you contact the Clekis Law Firm. You can reach them at 843-9000000, easy number to remember. Allie, thank you again for joining us.
Always.
Appreciate it. We're back after this.
This has been Legal Perspective with Nick Clekis.